Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Today on Collection Lessons, I want to talk about the Go Giver and then giving in general. It's part of my Collection Lessons series. Anything I say on this channel is not anything advice. And let's get into it. So, what I want to talk about today is a book called The Go Giver, which is a really great book. I highly suggest every single person read it because it has to do with like giving. And in a sense of giving, where I know, like I talk about Dave Ramsey a lot. In a sense of giving, when you give something, either give your time, give your energy, give your money, give whatever, and this is something that I fully believe is that you'll get something in return back from, I'd call it the world, right? So like, in this book, it gives really good examples of, giving time, giving whichever. I think even in this book, I think, because I read it last year, I think I recall a time where he, in the book, because it kind of has a story idea, it kind of plays through like a storyline where he gives his competitor, business because he can't, it's not beneficial really for him to do it, and he knows someone that could do it better. So he gives it to his competitor, and his competitor actually returns the favor in a different sense, where it gives them business as well. But it's something where people get so focused on themselves, and this is where I'm going to kind of split this off into a two-part thing. So the first thing is obviously the Go Giver book, which I really recommend people read to talk about more about giving and the idea of how uplifting and such it can be. And then talk about giving in general. So on this side, we're going to talk about giving in general. And so what I mean about giving is similar to, I talk about in another video where we have a gift account or a giving account that we put money into every month. And from that gift account, we either, gift or give traditional, things like presents. Everyone thinks of presents when they, it's supposed to be a box, a Christmas present, whatever. People think of, a traditional gift situation such as Christmas, Father's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays, that type of thing, or graduation gifts, that type of giving, which are examples of giving, yes, but that's usually as the extent that people go for giving, right? Which is kind of unfortunate because, as I found with the last few, years of life, giving can return some really great beneficial rewards, and not necessarily monetary rewards. It could be, either educational rewards or rewards of, improving life, growing, that type of thing as a person. It could be, the people that you connected to, the people because, maybe you don't know a millionaire. Maybe you don't know someone who makes $300,000 a year that is willing to help you, through life. Maybe you don't know these things. And so, being exposed to these people through, giving, either your time, your energy, your money, whichever, to somebody, and in return, somehow through that transaction or whichever, if you want to call it a transaction, you get something better in return. You get happier things in return. So like, from the example that I talk about with a gift account or a giving account, I could gift or give, like let's say I wanted to, take out my one friend for, just a meal, a supper or lunch. And I know that, that he might not make as much money, or he might be, going through some stuff. I'm able to give him, let's say, me and him went out to lunch or supper or whatever, and I can give him, a meal, which, could be technically a dollar value. I can, if you want to put it in that sense, but I'm giving him a meal as well as the time with me. So for time, I'll just put like a little clock, with 2 sets of time. That's my little clock, little radio. I'm giving him time to, express himself, saying like, I know you're going through a hard time. Tell me about it. I'm giving him time. I'm giving him money. And in return, it could be later down the road, maybe he finds, something that would benefit me. Maybe he may not actively be looking for it or whichever, but maybe he's like, maybe there's a deal on a video game, or, maybe there's anything. It could be anything. But the idea is when you give more, not really expecting to know what comes back of it, and you're like, oh, I hope that I get, I hope this works out. I hope that, my $100 I spent on that meal, I get something back, worth $100. It's not anything about that, because that's more of a scarcity mindset. It's more of an abundance thing. Like, sure, I'll see what, if I, help him out with this, or if I do this, then we'll see what comes of it. It's not really like a transaction type thing. it just kind of opens more doors to get things in return. And I'll share one of the great stories that or things or philosophies, I guess you could call it, that I heard. It was probably like 5 years ago or so. And I can't remember where I heard it. I think it was a story. It could have been a podcast or something I was listening to back in the day, but it really stuck with me because it was this idea of these two people sitting around a campfire, right? And the campfire, is obviously got some logs on it and everything. And it's on fire. And it's actually these two people, there was in a story type sense. And it was like, if you think about it in this sense, the fire, the wood, is giving back all the light and all the heat that it took when it was a tree. If you think this is a tree, this is a great tree, this is a bush, this is a tree. So when you burn the logs, so the tree starts out as nothing, right? It's really like, let's just make a twig. The tree's a twig. You burn the twig's not going to give you much heat and, light, right? Heat and light. And so you give this tree, more heat, more light from the sun, right? This is the sun. If you do that and you give it some water, because, it's got to have some water. If you give the tree light and heat, it's going to grow thicker. And when it grows thicker, it's going to be like this. And then when you burn it, it burns a bigger fire, which basically brings back out the heat and the light, in the future. If you think of it like that, when you burn the log. And it's really cool because it's kind of like when you have an air conditioning unit as well, an AC unit. If you live somewhere in the middle of Canada, I hear these aren't common on the West Coast, but if you have an AC unit, it gives off a lot of heat. And what does it do in return inside? It gives off cold, right? And then you gotta offset the cold and the hot. So basically it's, one thing for the other. There's an exchange, right? And where this kind of comes back to giving is if you give, the gift of either life or money or time or energy, in my opinion, it'll come back either in a same way or a different way or in a way that, would make sense. And I just think it's really cool if you think of that concept and if you open your mind to giving. And that doesn't mean just like throw money at random stuff. It means be like intentional with your giving, right? I'm not gonna feed in an addiction problem, right? I'm not gonna be like, hey man, I need to borrow some money for alcohol. I'm not gonna give him money or give him alcohol because he might have an addiction. I'm enabling that. That's not the way of giving. That's not giving in the right sense, right? So it's really interesting if you think of it like that, in that sense of, you're not giving to help promote future problems. You're giving in something rewarding or something that takes the ease off or something that, it's just, you're just giving in a good and moral general sense. And in my opinion, it'll come back in a good and moral general sense as well, or a different sense, or a better sense, or whichever. So that's what I wanted to share with this video is the Go Giver book. I highly suggest everyone read it. It's a really great book. It tells a story. And then the giving side of the thing as well, in a general sense, is I believe if you give more, you'll get more out of life. Not just a dollar figure. So I want to share that with this video. Thanks, and talk soon.